guys, welcome back to the show. Well, it's been 3 long years since the campaign for Mighty No.9 started and finished. And after so many delays, we finally got our hands on a special demo that was released to very few specific backers of the project. Backers who now unfortunately are questioning whether their blind loyalty was worth the time and money they invested in it.
We too managed to get the special demo on our hands, and we've played it for quite a bit. And now we're ready to give you all our honest opinion on it. Because the last time we reviewed a demo, it went so well.
Now we know that some of you might be up in arms thinking, but this is just a demo! It shouldn't be accurate enough to the game to be able to judge it as if it was the final product.
Shut up, it's our show, we'll do what we want.
Yet, that however is untrue. If that were the case, you would likely be talking about an alpha build or even a beta. A demo in our many years of gaming is basically giving you a small taste of what you will be getting in the final game. Very, very rarely have we ever played a demo that wasn't near exact to the game it was selling. Yet, fear not, we aren't judging the game as a whole. We will only judge the demo based on what it offers and offers alone, should the possibility of the complete product be any different.
I doubt it.
Mighty No.9 starts out simple enough and works pretty well on its maximum settings, which I am currently using on my PC. The options can easily use calibration to identify your controller and help you map out the button combinations you want. So that's a good start. But if you must, a keyboard is optional, but I wouldn't recommend it. Controller all the way.
Beginning the game, you're greeted with a small opening background which gives you a little bit of exposition on the world you live in, and how peace and prosperity reigned until these suddenly came in and ruined the day. The story is as basic as it gets, with very little subtlety about the origins of what this game is based on, and the player is likely to figure out the entire plot before the first stage is even finished. The dialogue between the characters, while we feel is cute enough, sometimes it gets really over the top, with its cheesy one-liners or childlike portrayal of characters.
Right, moogly moogly! Look at the size of those turbines!
That's right, genius! Oh, this delicious energy! Who can resist?
What happened to the lights? I'm scared! Mommy!
We know original Mega Man games were marketed towards kids, but the major backers for this game are definitely of aged adults. Don't get us wrong, we're not asking for a dark and edgy Mighty No.9 game or even a gritty Mega Man game, but is it too much to ask that the characters be a little more on the serious side? We admit this is a nitpick on our part, but with the pyromaniac shouting "burn" all the time and the B-robot constantly using Z's in the sentences, it's enough to make veterans eye roll. Again, this is a minor nitpick.
Now in terms of the gameplay, oh boy, where do we begin with this one? You have 4 available levels in the demo. One is the intro level, which you will start at the beginning of the game. The 3 other levels are the oil platform, where you will fight Mighty No.1, the power plant, where you will fight Mighty No.3, and the military base, where Mighty No.5 will be awaiting you. Each stage is uniquely designed and offers a lot of trial.
Beck, for the most part, plays very similar to another famous robot we all know and love. He can shoot, he can jump and shoot at the same time! Beck can also dash for some bursts of speed, and while in mid-air, he can dash infinitely, allowing the player to rush through a stage. The dash also has a secondary feature. When enemies you engage take enough damage via your buster gun, they will begin to glow a specific color, alerting you that they are in critical condition. The idea here is when this happens, Beck has to dash into the enemies and retrieve their data, which will also instantly destroy them, except for bosses however. Depending on how fast you damage and dash into enemies, or how many adversaries you dash through creating a combo chain, this can dramatically increase the points you receive upon completing a combo. If you're into scores and ranking, you will want to make very good use of this feature, but be wary as Beck has a very low hit point counter.
And surprisingly, it does not take much damage for you to get defeated in this game. There were many times that I can recall that we were just casually running through the stage, and then suddenly we exploded out of nowhere, probably because we weren't paying attention to the health bar, casually going on thinking we had far more health than we really did. And it's in this regard that a lot of players might claim this game is actually very difficult, even more so than Mega Man games.
And we can speculate why. And it all comes down to being forced to use the dash ability. Remember how everyone hated the Batmobile in Arkham Knight because the game forces you to use it against your will? Well, it's the same thing here. Enemies and bosses pretty much require you to dash directly into them just to effectively kill or damage them. This unfortunately gives the game a bit of extra complexity that many people are not going to care for. You see, by using the Buster Cannon alone to kill enemies, it unfortunately will not reward you with any points. However, if you just use the cannon by itself, it will take way longer to kill enemies, which in turn will leave you vulnerable. And if you are going to dash into them for points, you need to do it fast, because the longer you take, the points will go down, causing you to have less sync with them, meaning you will likely in some cases have to be right next to the enemy so you can do this effectively. So it really comes down to picking your poison. Do you choose to play it safe and avoid charging head-on into foes, costing you end-level points? Or do you risk it all and charge in as fast as you can? Bear in mind, losing just one life virtually resets your entire score. In other words, your run on any stage has to be perfect, otherwise you get a poor rank.
With bosses, on the other hand, you have no choice. After depleting a quarter of their health, you get an opening to charge them. But if you're not quick enough, they can regain the health you shot down. Even more fun, some of their attacks are insanely hard to avoid and all around broken, as some of them are instant killers. With enough trial and error, you can take them down though. In the demo, you don't have immediate access to any special boss powers, so we can't say how or if that will work in the final game, as it's probably locked away. Speaking of powers, during stages with power-ups you can find, hidden or out in the open, Beck can get a temporary increase in power or speed depending on the powers you find. You can also get them from dashing into enemies and stage checkpoints.
The stages themselves, in an expected fashion, are pretty linear. However, the stage layouts are pretty cool, but one thing we do have to point out is that some of the environmental hazards are really annoying, especially when you have to be pixel perfect on crouch dashing underneath things like saw blades, which by the way are really easy to screw up on, which will get you killed instantly, resulting in a lost life.
Beck also has little tips from time to time, like when you approach a ledge over a cliff. Beck is supposed to grab it, allowing the player to pull up to safety. However, many times we'd swear the game made a mistake and failed to register the grabs. This annoyance makes selecting your jumps have far more anxiety than they should, all because you wonder if the game isn't going to pull a fast one on you. And since you have limited continues, it just makes it a chore.
One thing we forgot to mention is that Beck has the ability to do a backwards jump and shoot diagonally down. It kind of reminds us of Richter Belmont's backflip in Castlevania Rondo of Blood. The reason it does is because, well, for both moves, it's very hard to find a good place to use them. Some enemies will be low enough, and maybe a boss might have something for you to use it with, but ultimately, it's just a weird maneuver you're likely to forget you have. Before we end this review, let's quickly go over the visuals, as that's what many have the most issues with. For a game to have been in development hell for this long period of time, people have been very underwhelmed with the look of this game as a whole, and well, we can't say we disagree. Bear in mind, we have always said that graphics don't make a good game, and we still stand by that. Yet we too wonder why after 3 years, the game still looks unfinished in its visual style. The cutscenes aren't animated fully, characters don't use their mouths when talking, some cutscenes use still images instead of animation. However, despite this, the visuals aren't bad, they're not. But we will say that the demo of this game as a whole has been very underwhelming.
The game is fun to a degree because while the demo has some obvious flaws, it still plays and feels like a Mega Man game. And if you guys think we were too hard on this demo, well, understand we're not saying the game is bad. However, in our opinion, the game does need some TLC. We are fans of Mega Man and Mighty No.9, but we're not ignorant fans that claim everything out of the company is going to be flawless or is flawless. If something is messed up, it's messed up, you know? The game does have potential, but all it's been is pretty underwhelming. I know that's the key word here, but truth. Especially with the not-so-secret background stories that's been going on behind the people involved with the game, and how they have been milking the fans' charitable funds.
The visuals for the most part are fine. The controls are spot on and very responsive, although the game's programming might make a few mistakes. We're not big fans of the acting in the game, as mentioned before, with the characters sounding less serious and more childish. and we definitely don't care for forcing the players to use the dash as a weapon, as it sometimes is more trouble than it's worth. However, some may not mind this feature. There are a set of tutorial stages to try out in order to be prepared, so that is something.
But at this point in time, most gamers will already know whether or not they are committed to a game like this. As for everybody else, we say the game is worth a shot. In spite that all it offers, there is still quite a bit of fun to be had here because ultimately it does still play and feel like a Mega Man game. And if that's the experience that you're going for, then believe it or not, you will actually find it here. And as for us, you can definitely count on a full review of Mighty No. 9 once the game actually does come out, and we will be able to judge it on full merit, no holding back. Meanwhile, guys, that's the end of our show. If you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe and share it with everyone you know and love, as we're always uploading new videos weekly for you guys with more reviews and more Sega vs. Super Nintendo, and even the Tales of Retrospective. It's been fun. I'm your host, William Morris.
And I'm your co-host, Eugene Morris. And see you next time.